We got a storm coming, and some of you might as well. I'm gonna show you some tricks today that you've probably never seen before, and you're gonna be shocked at how well it can help, not only for the coming storm, but also in so many different applications you probably haven't yet thought of. Check it out. Just got the sheep into a new paddock, okay? And man, they're working up the side of this mountain over here. Maybe we can show you some of it. We got some of them down low. They're doing their thing. They're doing the sheepness of the sheep, and they're loving it. But if you look around, the only shelter they have are basically these trees that have almost certainly, most of them have lost most of their leaves right now. So ordinarily, that's not a big deal. And ordinarily, when it's raining, look, they got to suck it up just like a soldier would. And typically, that's not a problem. But where it becomes a problem is when they're just in it for 3 days straight, which is what they're telling us regarding this storm that's coming up, basically this hurricane, whatever it is, I don't know. But they're telling us for 3 days straight it's going to be rain nonstop. Well, if I can provide temporary shelter, why not? But here's the rub. If you go about it the typical way where, let's say you take this tarp and some 550 cord and you stretch it in between these trees, with the winds they're talking about, in some cases maybe up to 60 miles an hour, this thing ain't gonna be there that long, especially if you use the eyelets. Folks, I'm gonna show you a trick today that I've been using for years. And man, I'm really calling upon that mountaineering background, and my background as a U.S. Army sapper to help me get through this one. And I'm gonna share it with you folks. Now, I will warn you, there are some pluses and minuses to using this trick. But let me stretch out this tarp and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, let's talk about the tools you're gonna need. I got some 550 cord, some of you call it paracord. Now, okay, yeah, this is more of a tactical kind of thing. You know, you throw it on the ground, you can't see it, but it would be in my best interest when I'm working with animals to get things that are high visibility, you know, colors that don't exactly occur in nature. So I do have some that's fluorescent orange, but I don't have enough of it to do this video. That would serve me better, actually. But just think about it, in a clandestine situation, maybe this is exactly what I want. Maybe something that's a little more OD green would work out a little better for me. So I gotta make a little hooch for these animals, okay? Ordinarily, in a regular circumstance, without any wind or whatever, I would basically run this thing through one of the eyelets at the end, like so many of us would, and I would make what's called a bowline. This is one way to do it. Now I know you're thinking, okay, man, this is a little bit boring here. Trust me, I'm gonna show you a trick today, and it's gonna be one of the most unknown and unused beneficial knots you've never heard about. This is a bowline, so we got it in the eyelet here, right? Now imagine this in all four corners, and you got the wind blowing. Look, they call this thing heavy duty, and yeah, compared to most tarps, it is. But I guarantee you, this thing, and anybody that's ever dealt with these to any extent at all, you know that when there's enough pressure on this, it's gonna tear the eyelet right off of this thing, especially in that kind of wind. So we need a different dog to take to the hunt. And I'm gonna show you a method today that has worked for centuries. I mean, some would even say millennia. It's been believed that in like even the Roman Colosseum, that they use some of these knots for this stuff. This one is called a double sheet bend, okay? Here's the way it works. Instead of using that eyelet that I know is gonna break in high wind, I'm gonna basically, let me put my rope over here, kind of gather it up a little bit. I'm gonna twist it a little bit so I can work with it. Now, the downside of using this method is I'm chewing up some of my tarp, okay? So I'm not getting the full 8x10 out of it, but I don't need all of it. So I got it twisted up a little bit here, and then I'm gonna fold it on itself like so, okay? So there's my sheet. They would have done this in the old days with sails and stuff like that on a boat. So I'm gonna leave my loop here, put my finger above it. I'm gonna run this through the bottom of that loop, okay? And I'm gonna run it over my finger twice and come in behind this loop. Let me make sure I got enough of a running end here. So I'm gonna run it through here once. Let me kind of straighten that up a little bit. You gotta make sure you don't get your own fingers caught up in it. And then I'm going to do it twice. You could go more if you needed to. In fact, I might, depending on how this thing dresses up. And when I say dress up, I'm talking, does it look right? Because it's not enough for the knot. I want the knot to be functional, but it also needs, I need to make sure that it's going to stay put. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called a double sheet bend, okay? Instead of being in this eyelet here that I know is going to break, which is more secure, do you think? This whole tarp or this eyelet that's caught at a corner? So now all I'm going to do, instead of just relying on that eyelet, now I'm going to do this in all four corners. And like I said, it's eating up part of my tarp, but I guarantee you this thing will hold up in wind that you didn't even think possible. Like I said, this is a high heavy duty tarp, and I could use one that was medium or even light duty. I could get twice the tensile strength out of a light duty tarp than I could on this heavy duty tarp by using the eyelets. I guarantee it works. I've been doing this for years. And honestly, in the storm that we have coming up, y'all, many of you out there are going to find this thing very, very beneficial. So that's exactly what it's going to look like. So let me get it tied off to this tree. And over to this tree, I'm going to use another knot. And I've demonstrated it a number of times. It's called a round turn with 2 half hitches. There's any number of knots you could use, but you want to make sure you're taking the right dog to the hunt. When I do this, I can pull this thing so incredibly tight with no fear of tearing up that tarp at all. Now, could you use bungees? Like, yeah, you can if you want to. And then see how that works out for you. But I don't think you're going to like the results. So here we are at the end of it. Round turn. Now, I could easily put in 2 quick releases, but we're just going to concentrate on the double sheet bend today because that's really the star of the show. And like I said, this is one of those farm knots that, along with the Prusik, there's a number of others I use. The double sheet bend, the Prusik. Now I'm going to put a quick release in there, so as you can see, so I can just yank this out. I could put 2 quick releases in there if I wanted, but all I'd have to do is pull this, and then the whole thing comes apart. So I'll do that. I'll put a quick release in here, and then just for GP, because I'm expecting a lot of high wind, I'm just going to kind of keep this one put by just putting the overhand in the end of it. So all I'd have to do is undo the overhand like so, which is simple to do, yank on this, and then the whole thing comes apart. But I'm telling you what, you can take an average tarp and turn it into something that's, so to say above average is an understatement. Turn it into something that is absolutely way, way, way more powerful just by employing what I'm showing you here. Now let me get this last corner going. All right, that's a wrap, y'all. And this thing is so strong. Had I had it higher, I just told Michelle before I started filming here, you know what? I could honestly lay in this thing and it ain't going nowhere. Between the 550 cord at the corners and the added tensile strength that I've given to this thing ain't going nowhere. And folks, I can't even tell you how many times I've used this method, literally, this is why in all of my boots, I have 550 cord in all of my boots as shoestrings. This is why I do it, because there have been times where I'm driving along. I remember I was in my Dodge and I had a bunch of compost in the back of it. And I was living in a place where the cops would shake you down for the change in your pockets. That's another story altogether. And I saw one of the eyelets came up and I was like, okay, I'll just grab my shoestrings, my boot string. And I did the very same thing, tied it to the bumper, of my truck. So, and then of course, no problems whatsoever. Now, here are the downsides. This 8x10 just became about a 9x7. That's one of the downsides. So if you're going to do that, consider that. But you know what? The sheep are going to basically, they lay on top of each other anyway. And this is more than enough area. Another thing is, I don't need it to be all that big. And somebody's going to say, well, you're going to catch water. But what you don't see, or what is probably hard to convey, is that this is actually quite a steep slope here. So it'll gather a little bit of water. And like I said, we've done it all over these mountains. It'll gather a little bit of water and then it'll just shed off. It's not a big deal. So this thing is, I don't know, but I'll bet it's at least 10 times stronger than using your store-bought eyelets right here. So if you're gonna do it, get a bigger tarp than you need if you're worried about the footprint, and just give it a shot. But like I said, just exercise your imagination and you'll be shocked at how many different ways you can use these things. Like I said, and I'm gonna hopefully do something very comprehensive in the near future, where all of these knots, like the double sheet bend, are things that most people have never even heard of. But the most valuable knots that I use, not every day, but at least once a week: double sheet bend, the Prusik, round turn with 2 1/2 inches, bowline, all these things. If you're just out there tying granny knots, y'all, you're setting yourself up for failure. But look, I know we got a big storm coming through, and a lot of people are probably wondering, well, hey, why aren't you just using that sheep tractor down there? Well, if I do, it's not yet ready in the rotation. I have them up in the woods right now, and ordinarily, if it were a day or two of rain, I wouldn't even worry about it. I mean, they're built for this sort of thing. But, you know, in the just as a means of being able to get them to escape it, at least for a little while, you know, that's why I have it here. But the reason I'm not using that right now is that it's going to screw up my grazing operation. I have them higher in the mountain, and they're not yet ready to do the grazing that's going to be down below. So that's going to be a couple of days from now. Well, folks, just remember, round turn with 2 1/2 inches. That's what I got it anchored with. And remember the double sheet bend, S-H-E-E-T, double sheet bend. I think you're going to realize when you exercise your imagination in so many different ways, you can find some pretty awesome uses for this stuff. Don't worry, in the near future, I'm going to show you all the different ways. When I say near future, I keep saying that, and these things always seem to be a ways off. But I intend to do something a little more comprehensive about all the different ways in which you can use some pretty everyday things to make things that you already have way better or make them way durable, just as you're seeing right now. All right, y'all, if you need any comfrey from us, we still got it while, you know, it's getting kind of long in the tooth in the season. But if you need some, we got some at the website. World's best deer repellent, bone sauce. We make it right here at Perma Pastures Farm. Go check us out at the website, rice knives, whatever you need. Till next time, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, where permaculture is my passion. See you next time.